Alright guys, today we're going to be talking about how to reduce low back pain as well as increase efficiency of power transfer through your core. We're going to go through the anatomy, we're going to go through the mechanics of the abdominal wall, and even a little bit of physics at the end. I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, let's talk about the skeletal system first. We've got the chest, the low back, and the pelvis. So we have the ribs, thoracic vertebrae, and the entire weight of the upper body here, supported by this lumbar spine, very skinny if you just look at the skeleton, and then we have the pelvis down here as a base for the lumbar spine to plant on. Then we come to the lateral view. We can see here, chest, again we've got our ribs, thoracic vertebrae, we have our lumbar spine again, and then our pelvis. So, if we look at this, it's really obvious the lumbar spine needs some help. It's in the very back, all the weight is in the very front. If there were no muscles here, nothing to generate enough stiffness to hold the upper body up, the spine would just collapse like this. So, luckily, we have an abdominal cavity that we're able to generate an increased amount of pressure that essentially fills up like a balloon and pushes up and supports the front part of our body. It's bordered by what we'll call four things. We'll just say it's bordered by the back. It's bordered by the pelvic floor. It's bordered by the abdominal wall and the diaphragm. So the goal of the abdominal cavity is to increase the pressure. When the pressure increases, you get force pushing out equally in all directions. So if any one of these walls is too weak, then the force will push out on that wall, or will push out and the pressure will drop, and then if that pressure drops, we lose our support, and then the spine will collapse. So our goal is to keep this pressure up. So we have to keep all four of these sides rigid. So on the spine, we can see that's fairly obvious. That one stays pretty rigid. The pelvic floor, this is where we go into your, like when you're urinating and you're midstream and then you just stop. If you stop midstream, then you know how to activate the muscles of your pelvic floor. So I want you to think about that next time you're doing anything that's, you're exerting yourself. I want you to think about stopping your urine midstream and activate those muscles. That'll keep your pelvic floor rigid. Now, you're up here at the top, this is your diaphragm. This is the muscle that when it contracts, your lungs inflate. We use the Valsalva maneuver, which is where up here you close off your glottis, and that keeps the air, you fill your lungs with air, and then you keep it, you block it off essentially. So now you have this air chamber in your chest full, which keeps your diaphragm down low, but you close it up here so it can't leak out any air, so your pressure in your chest goes really high. So that balances this pressure in the abdomen. Now, one area where we see a lot of leak in pressure is the abdominal wall. And I think one reason for this is our understanding of the musculature of the abdominal wall and the mechanics of the abdominal wall is a little bit limited. We often think of the six-pack ab as the entire abdominal wall. We think of the rectus abdominis being it, the end-all be-all. But there are actually three other muscles that are very supportive and help create a band-like effect around the abdomen that keep it pulled in tight and super rigid. And these three muscles are your transversus abdominis, your internal oblique, and your external oblique. The transversus, the fibers run straight out, straight away. This is your rectus in the middle, and your fibers are going straight perpendicular to that. So your internal oblique, they go down and away from the rectus. And then at a perpendicular angle to the fibers of the internal oblique, we have the fibers of the external oblique, which run up and away from the rectus. So we can draw this real quick here on our skeletal diagram, and that'll make it a little bit simpler to see, to visualize. This marker's no good. Let me grab another marker. All right, so right here, we'll call this our very rough rectus abdominis muscle. We'll draw our middle line here, put some horizontals through there, okay? So this is our rectus. We've got our three layers to think about. We have transversus abdominis running out to the side. Okay? And then we have our internal obliques down and away. Okay? And then we have our external obliques up and away. So you can see when we draw these fibers on there, the very lattice-like matrix that all these muscles form. And the way these muscles act on the rectus, so on the classic muscle that everyone thinks of as the entire abdominal wall, the way they act on it is to generate tension to almost pull it apart. So if we look at the forces of these muscles, if we draw our vector diagram, we're back. We have our transversalis pulling out and out, okay? Then we have our internal oblique down and away, and down and away. Then we have our external oblique up and away, and up and away. So what you can see here is, in the end, all these forces cancel, so movement on the rectus is actually zero. So with zero movement of the rectus, what we do end up having is a very, very rigid structure that tightens down on this side and tightens down on this side, and it creates a clamp almost on this abdominal cavity, and then this clamp maintains the stiffness, so when the pressure increases, it doesn't give out through the abdominal wall. So if the abdominal wall doesn't give out, the diaphragm doesn't give out, the low back on the inside doesn't give out, and the pelvic floor doesn't give out, the pressure just goes up and up and up, and it continues to support this. So, what's the benefit of having increased pressure in the abdominal cavity other than supporting this? Well, for low back pain purposes, if this is supported from the front, that means these muscles, your erector spinae, these muscles on the back, aren't having to work super, super hard to keep your spine neutral. So because of the positioning of these muscles, they don't have all that much leverage. They have to work really, really hard to keep the spine neutral, unless you put increased pressure here to push up on the ribs. Now for power, think about it like having a bike or your car or anything, sand, walking on sand versus concrete. Riding a bike that has low tire pressure versus high tire pressure. You're going to get much more efficiency in your power out of a high tire pressure bike, because when you're pushing down, it's not bouncing up and down, it's transferring all that power straight through. So same thing here. If we have power coming from the ground where we press and we push up through here, it's not doing this motion, it's staying rigid, and that power is going straight up to the next step in the chain. So that's how the abdominal cavity, the increased pressure specifically you can generate in the abdominal cavity, can contribute to both reducing low back pain as well as increasing power transfer. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found it useful. And if you did, and you want to see other videos that I'll be posting in the future, or videos that I've posted in the past, just go ahead and push the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks. Hope you guys have a great day.